Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel has sounded the alarm on state governments waiving farm loans and has called for a consensus to do away with them to avoid damaging the national balance sheet. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath recently announced a 36,000 crore rupees farm loan waiver, which could trigger similar decisions by the Punjab and Maharashtra governments. Responding to a question on whether there were any concerns on loan waivers, Patel said that they entail transfers from taxpayers to borrowers. He is not the first banker to criticize farm loan waivers. Some of his comments are a reiteration of what State Bank of India Chairman Arundhati Bhattacharya had said last month. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if farm loan waivers are a bad idea as suggested by the RBI Governor. Joining me on the program today are A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director, Business Standard, Praveen Jha, Professor, Center for Economic Studies and Planning, JNU, Sanjeev Gupta, MD, Next Gen Financial Solutions and Chairman, Banking, PhD, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and N.K.shukla, Joint Secretary, All India Kisan Sabha. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Bhattacharya, are waivers of farm loans really a good or a bad idea?
Well, you know, your kicker says good politics but bad economics. I would like to say it is bad politics and bad economics both.
Okay.
Bad politics because it essentially may win you some votes, but it is simply not sustainable. So therefore, in the long term, it is politically can be counterproductive and even suicidal. Because you cannot go on, waiving farm loans or any loans for that matter. I can understand restructuring of loans, but waiver of loan is a plain action where the credit climate is vitiated. Economics, clearly there is no debate that it is not a good policy at all, because if any decision of that nature will have adverse consequences, not only for the state fisc, but also for the entire credit market. So therefore, it is both bad politics in the long term and bad economics right from day one.
Sure, fair enough. Professor Jha, would you agree with that completely? Or I can see a smile on your face. You don't seem to be in agreement.
Not quite, because we really need to contextualize it. Why is it that farmers are in this situation where the loans have to be waived, etc.? Now, clearly, in terms of what we can say as a policy, one can argue that it is a suboptimal policy. Then immediately one needs to ask, what would have been a good policy? And I'm saying suboptimal precisely because with reference to what could have been a good policy. Now, good policy would have been a set of things which were suggested, for instance, by the Swaminathan Committee report. National Commission on Farmers, it had said a number of things. Now, clearly, if we are not supporting farming in the way that we should be, a situation comes, as shown by situation assessment surveys of the National Sample Survey Organization, as you know, that on an average, the income of farmers is so low that their daily survival becomes a problem. Now, clearly, we are not sorting out the deeper causes, deeper problems, and there is a knee-jerk reaction, which is where the politics comes in. As Mr. Bhattacharya said that maybe it can give you some votes, it probably will give you a lot of votes, depending on, what exactly is the ground reality at a particular juncture. But this then becomes necessary precisely because we have not addressed the deeper problems and causes of the crisis. Now, you can't simply abandon them to, their fate. Something needs to be done. Their daily survival is in a serious crisis. Now, even though in principle one might agree that waivers is something which does impact the overall, context, etc. But again, we have to put this waiver along with many other waivers which are happening. And the kind of exemptions which have been given to the economy at large, and particularly the big boys and the large players and so on and so forth.
Corporate sector.
Corporate sector. And as we know that, exemptions after the tax rates, etc. have been decided, the kind of exemptions that we have had. We are talking of sometimes 7,43,000 crores.
I can see a smile on Mr. Gupta's face.
Right.
So, I saw the smile on your face, and I came to you. Let him respond, because I want to know what he's thinking there behind that smile. Mr. Gupta.
No, so I think taking forward that contextualization, I was only smiling when he said, two mistakes cannot make one good decision. That's not possible. If we have waived some loans for some industries, it cannot mean that we should waive it for farmers at large. And actually, the two are very different contexts, and I'll explain to you how. The 36,359 crores of loan waiver that we are talking about, incidentally, is 2 crore people, and added on that around 70 lakhs more. Now, this is not a small number. Imagine for a moment another state government. You've named Punjab and you've named Haryana.
Maharashtra as well.
I'm saying now let's go to Madhya Pradesh, for example. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji is going to have another problem. There, the problem is going to be equally large. And imagine for a moment that large number of people getting into a habit of understanding that as the elections come closer, they're going to have a loan waiver. Now, this can be, if you ask me, I will agree with one thing, that it's a very good politics. 2009 elections were won on the basis of 2008 promises. 1998 or whatever, 1997, whatever it was, again. 2014, both TDP in Andhra Pradesh and the Telangana.
TRS.
Both of them actually rode that crest. So it can be a good politics, but it is not a good governance actually. For a simple reason that you are actually digging the same, I would say, pit out of the same mud in which you are about to, put a lot of traps. For a simple reason, if you were to use this money, it's your money, it's the nation's money. You can use it any which way. If you are to use it for building, let's say, infrastructure, provide better irrigation facilities, provide better kind of seeds, the same families are going to do much better on a long-term basis. But not if you actually do a waiver. It is moral hazard.
Sure.
It's like, coming late. I mean, if I come late, I'm putting pressure on all others. It's the same taxpayers' money. We are all putting it into a bad economics and causing pressure back on everyone.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm dying to know what Mr. Shukla, the farmers' representative, really has to say about all of this. Mr. Shukla, do you believe that farm loan waiver is just temporary in nature? It can bring about temporary relief to the farmer, but something larger or something more needs to be done to help out the farmer in the long run?
Yes, it is a temporary relief. We from the farmer side want that whatever the recommendations of Dr. Swaminathan Commission, that should be implemented first. The farmers should be supplied inputs, cheap inputs, and whatever they produce, they should be given proper prices, cost plus 50% as recommended. And the agriculture loan should not be charged more than 4% interest. And then other facilities should be given. Today, every day the farmers are committing suicide. In the UPA time, it was 48 average in 24 hours. Now it has gone to 52. So I want to know from our friends and guests here and also the economists, what they think about the farmers who are producing the grains for the country. They have the obligation, but the country and the government and other industry, have they any obligation towards farmers or not? Taxpayer means what? The farmers are out of that. They are contributing in the national bank. They are contributing grains. Otherwise, as petrol and diesel, you will be forced to import grains from the other country, and then you can go to 60s and 70s when the famine was there. Therefore, question is what you are doing, only the partial thing what UP government has. We are not satisfied. 2 crores, 15 lakhs farmers are there, and you have done only for the 86 lakhs farmers. And the whole country is reeling under drought, and this situation, the government should take more steps. अगर हम किसान को नहीं बचाएंगे, अन्नदाता को नहीं बचाएंगे, तो हम देश को नहीं बचाएंगे. इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट को, कॉर्पोरेट्स को 1,40,000 करोड़ आपने माफ़ कर दिया और 8 लाख करोड़ से ज़्यादा आपने इंसेंटिव दिया. उसके लिए आप वर्ड्स यूज़ करते हैं इंसेंटिव और एनपीए. इंसेंटिव एंड एनपीए फॉर द इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट and loan waiver for the farmers. farmers के लिए कर्ज माफी. Why these two words are used by our great intellectuals? That I want to ask. Where you
Yes.
put the farmers and where you put the industrialists?
Fair enough.
This is my question.
I'm going to take that to my other guests as well. Mr. Bhattacharya, there's some merit in what Mr. Shukla is saying.
I think all Dr. Jha, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Shukla have made very valid points. But I think we need to understand the issues in context. Number one, as Mr. Gupta pointed out, that if Swaminathan Commission's recommendations have not been accepted either in letter or in spirit, that does not mean that we commit another mistake and try to set right the earlier mistake. That is a completely counterproductive policy. Number two, of course, the state as such has a responsibility towards its citizens, its farmers particularly. But that responsibility has to be borne not by corporate banking systems money. It should be borne by the state exchequer. Unfortunately, what is happening is that you are transferring the load of a government responsibility to the farmers, whatever may be the reason. We can debate that endlessly, but you are transferring the load of that government responsibility to the corporate banking system, and thereby you are vitiating the credit climate. Now, I think that is the real issue, that do you want to do it through the state's own finances and help the farmers who are needy, or do you want to use the banking system and ride on the banking system and use and help the farmers? What is being planned in UP, unfortunately, is that the state departments are being asked to float bonds, and those bonds will be floated in the market. Now, clearly, UP has already got around 70,000 crore bonds in the market. The outstanding bonds are 70,000 crore for a state whose fiscal deficit is around 60,000 crore. Now, clearly, these are unsustainable situations. Now, therefore, I am in agreement with the broad principle that the farmers' need must be taken care of, just as the industry's needs are taken care of. But you have to understand that the state exchequer cannot be being made to carry the burden.
Fair enough. So what's the solution then, Professor Jha?
The solution is to address the root causes of the problem. You see, as I said earlier, I see this at best as a suboptimal solution, precisely because you're trying to address some of the symptoms of the crisis, not the root causes of the crisis. Now, I am not opposed to it precisely because if we are not addressing the root causes, at least to some extent we are addressing some of the symptoms, precisely because it's a question of survival for a very large section of the farming community. Now, that's why even though I'm not thinking of it as policy number one, but I would not rule it out completely off the radar, right? But obviously in the medium to long run, what needs to be done, and let us remember that farmers pay as much taxes as many others do through the indirect tax route. So, it's not the case that they are not contributing to the overall resource kitty of the government and so on and so forth. And, one needs to do a very careful analysis of to what extent farmers have contributed, how much, etc. That's a different story altogether. The basic point is, as Mr. Shukla was pointing out earlier, as I had said earlier, that we need to go back to the drawing board, go back to the Swaminathan Committee report and infrastructure, what kind of investments are required, MSP, 50% cost plus, etc. Unless we start doing those things, every couple of years, every fifth year or so, we will get into this situation precisely because farming has become unviable. And you are talking of more than half the country's population which is dependent still on agriculture. And if they are unviable, you can't let them die, right? It does become a question of survival. And of course, this will have to be the responsibility of the state and the government, not of the banking sector, right? I mean, it may be channeled through the banking sector, but the government has to find adequate resources. So, to that extent, I completely agree with Mr. Bhattacharya on this, that you can't sort of saddle the banks which are already massively stressed, not because of the farmers, but because of the others, right? Yeah. But then, in any case, I mean, most of the banks are in such a mess right now. And, if you look at your top banks, public sector banks, the kind of NPAs that they're saddled with. So clearly that route is something which must be avoided. However, in the present context, I am not opposed to loan waivers at all, precisely because they are absolutely on the margin. You're thinking of a very large segment of the population, right? As I said, I do not take it as the best policy, but that's what I meant by contextualizing it.
So if you don't bail out your own citizens, whom do you then?
Exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes, Mr. Gupta, then do we need a complete cleansing of the entire system then to move forward?
So let me start first from the farmer loan waiver itself, and then we'll come to, I want to say something about a wheel kind of a model. So let me first start from, so what happens? I mean, let's look at from the banking sector now. The three main banks which are going to suffer are SBI, PNB, Allahabad Bank, the three main bankers in the state of UP as part of this waiver. And there are around 11 more, total of 14 banks which are going through this. They're the largest credit providers in agriculture and the crop loan. Now, what happens when a loan waiver happens? Most of these banks will now shrug off in giving the loans to the further loans to the farm sector or the agriculture sector. Now, what happens? Where do they go? They go back to the same money lender who will charge them more, and the credit will become less and less available. Who suffers? I would like to, request Mr. Jha to once again think through this, that it's actually we as the agricultural community of this country, not that any one of us can be away from that.
But Mr. Gupta, there's going to be another election 5 years down the line. There'll be another waiver.
So that's exactly, no, not only that. Before that, the state by state, the pressure is going to shift now. And as more and more precedents get set up, more and more reasons get elaborated that it should be done. And we get more and more accosted with the fact that, okay, that's part of this. Let me now turn it around one more time on that balancing model and say, yes, agriculturists are very important, no doubt about it. Are the soldiers not? Are the industrialists not? Are the MSMEs not? Are the let's say the earning, I would say the people who are taking these small home loans and actually are the ones who are the salaried employees and the ones who contribute the biggest to the exchequers and in a consistent manner, are they not supposed? I mean, we are all equal contributors to this economy. Waivers, subsidies, especially waivers. Subsidies, I would still say, if you could have given them as a subsidized loan, it could have been much better as a culture. So you don't demolish a credit culture to a particular community or a particular business or profession just because you want to, give them a relief or a temporary relief. It's not even a great relief if you ask me. I think one consensus we probably have in this room probably is going to be that, it's not a great economics also at the end of the day. It actually works counterproductively to you. So, and then now I come back to what you were probably asking is that what do? Do we cleanse the system? Yes, we are working to clean the system. If you see, for the first time in this country after a very, very long time, SARFAESI has been strengthened like nothing else. Today, a lot of private sector and NBFCs come and tell me, Sanjeev, we are very happy that the SARFAESI is so strong that we get our recoveries. Most of the lenders in the country are very, very feeling very safe. But whatever has happened to the NPAs, we have to resolve that. The government is working, I would say, full time on board to even solve that. Insolvency professionals have been put in place. The entire regulation and the act and everything is done. Every single step that could have helped this country to actually recover the money from, I would say, at least the willful defaulters, and wherever the assets can actually realize that, is all happening.
Okay.
I mean, so the cleansing system is in place, but this kind of a measure could be a disruptive measure to that process also.
Fair enough. Mr. Shukla, once someone is bailed out in this way, what happens is the farmer is going to continually depend on the government or someone new to come to the fore and bail them out yet again. And what happens to the honest farmer? When I say honest farmer, I don't mean the other farmers are not honest, but someone who's, continually paying his loans back. Now, he's not going to pay his loan back because he believes that the government is going to bail him out.
No, that is not the main thing. That question has come after, I think, after 9 years today. In between, that the subsidies which were being provided to the farmers, that is being withdrawn slowly and slowly on fertilizer and other thing. And they are not getting proper MSP, then what is the situation of the farmers? If farmers, as the agriculture is becoming unviable, it means that they are generally always are in loss. If you don't bail out and if you don't help, though it is a partial measure, and if you don't take the long-term measure, it means slowly and slowly you are going to destroy your agriculture and the farmers. And such a big population, more than 60% depending on agriculture, if their purchasing power go down and down, how can you revive your economy, your industry or anything? Purchasers should be there. Industry will run not by the machines, by the people who have the purchasing power. And that big population depending on agriculture, they are always in loss. They should be helped. This is a partial bailout. I understand it. And I make the question, those people who are opposing the farmers' bailout or farmers' loan waiver, why don't they oppose openly the bailout to industries, the corporates? The same RBI chief, same SBI chief, they are not speaking openly against bailout to corporates and big business, but they are speaking as the farmers. What is this class bias against the poor people, the poor farmers who are providing you the grains? You are speaking against them. किसानों के खिलाफ सब बोलते हैं, पूंजीपतियों के खिलाफ नहीं. अगर किसान पैदा नहीं करेगा, किसान की खरीदने की ताकत घटती जाएगी, आपका उद्योग, इंडस्ट्री, तेल, साबुन, कपड़ा, लत्ता कौन खरीदेगा? आपकी इंडस्ट्री बंद हो जाएगी. आपका चीज़ अमेरिका और इंग्लैंड में नहीं बिकेगा. यहीं के लोगों को खरीदना है. अगर आप उनको बेल आउट करते हैं तो उन्हीं को बेल आउट नहीं करते, आप इंडस्ट्री को बेल आउट कर रहे हैं. उनका परचेजिंग कैपेसिटी अगर बढ़ता है, उनकी आमदनी बढ़ती है, बाजार में खरीदार आएंगे, बाजार चलेगा, उद्योग चलेगा, देश का विकास होगा. इस बात को समझना चाहिए. किसानों के खिलाफ बोलने वाले बुद्धिजीवी काफी हैं, लेकिन पूंजीपतियों के खिलाफ मैं कहीं किसी अखबार में, कहीं किसी पेपर में आवाज नहीं सुन रहा हूं कि उनको क्यों ये तो 9 साल के बाद हो रहा है. Every budget you visit,
everyone wants to respond to what you're saying.
Last line.
Yes,
हर
okay.
बजट में पूंजीपतियों को राहत दी जाती है इंसेंटिव के नाम पर, एनपीए के नाम पर, हर बजट में. अगर मैं गलत हूं तो कोई काउंटर करे डाटा से.
ठीक है, okay, fine. Mr. Bhattacharya, is there a bias as is being suggested by Mr. Shukla?
I am not suggesting any bias. I'm saying there is a perceptional issue here. Number one, that much of the subsidies that go to the agriculture sector right now is actually not going to the agriculturists, farmers, and is actually going to the companies. Now, I think there's a major flaw. So Mr. Shukla perhaps is right that the subsidies that we talk about for the farmers should actually be directed towards the farmers themselves. Second point, that nobody, even in the financial press of this country, they have ever recommended a waiver or a bailout for corporate sector. What has been recommended and widely endorsed is that a haircut has to be ensured for the promoters. If the promoters want to get out of a bad loan situation, they must take an equivalent haircut so that the stressed asset is resolved in a manner that somebody who has destroyed the asset is not going away scot-free. So that is a second misperception in my view. The third point I would like to make is that in any situation or where you have got such a bulk of India's population, almost around 60% of India's population is dependent on agriculture. Therefore, you need a much more sustainable and a durable recovery strategy for Indian farming, not by loan waivers of this sort, which will not address the real problem of Indian agriculture.
Sure.
And the real problem is how to take away the surplus workers in the farming sector to more productive purposes, productive sectors of the economy.
I think that's a very valid point.
But the GDP is growing at a faster rate. Therefore, the people who are over-dependent on agriculture are taken away. And how will that happen? Through education and skilling. So I think we need to discuss and debate not farm waivers, loan waivers, but we need to discuss how do we take a large number of farming people away from farming and make them, redeploy them in vocations that are more paying and more productive.
I think that's a very valid point that you're making. Yes, Mr. Gupta, a quick closing remarks from you.
Very rapidly. One thing, Mr. Jha brought out that, the industries are typically being waived on the loan, etc. Let me point out that I think very rightly brought out already by Mr. Bhattacharya, that that it's not really, it's just a myth, it's a perception. So that is to be corrected by him, and most of the times it's actually being rationalized. There are restructuring schemes, there are resolution schemes that are being worked upon. There are not really waivers, what he feels. So one is that. Second, I would like to bring it out to Mr. Jha once again in this manner that, had the value added propositions of the kinds of providing an infrastructure or providing the, I would say, let's say, for example, if it's a food sector, Punjab typically produces food. So if you put a food processing industry and if you allow the food processing industries on subsidized rates and everything to be done, you build long-term sustenance there.
Sure.
Instead of just giving a fish to the person, if you teach him fishing, I think everyone will agree that it's much better proposition in any case.
Fair enough.
So
Yes,
I think that's
Professor
what I would
Jha.
like to recommend.
Simple point is that the causes of agrarian crisis are deep-rooted. Those are not being addressed. There is a problem of the larger economic policy, and hence you do not have adequate diversification in terms of people getting into other jobs, etc. Now, all those are different issues. Right now, what we are talking about is a desperate measure for a desperate population. Right? That's why I've been saying from the word go that it is a suboptimal solution,
Yes.
but a solution nonetheless. You have to do it precisely because it's a question of life and death. Right? Now, this whole question of what implications does it have for loan culture, etc. As I said earlier, 7,43,000 crores, exemptions, part of it to the corporate sector and so on. Right? That sends as terrible signals. I do not know of any finance minister in the last 25 years who has said that these exemptions are good.
Okay.
All of them have said it's terrible, but they have not done anything about it.
Sure.
So much so in the last budget, even the number has not been given.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Shukla, please close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
No, I am saying and asking that in last 15 years, more than 3,50,000 farmers have committed suicide, and daily the suicide number is increasing. What the government and other intellectuals, they are proposing to arrest this suicide. The Prime Minister in his election speeches had promised that when he will come to power, he will implement the Swaminathan Commission report and will take other measures. Why it is not being implemented? तो आज किसानों को बचाने के लिए अगर कुछ करेंगे नहीं, खेती को बचाने के लिए, तो आपने जो वादा किया था हम स्वामीनाथन कमीशन को रिपोर्ट को लागू करेंगे, अगर आप उनको कीमत दे देंगे, जो उनका लागत है उसका 1.5 गुना अगर कीमत दे देंगे, उनको सस्ता खेती के लिए खाद, बीज, पानी, डीजल अगर आप दे देंगे, बाजार उनको सही दे देंगे, तो आत्महत्या पर भी रोक लगेगी, ये लोन वेवर की आगे जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। अगर कोई स्टेप्स नहीं लगेंगे तो खेती नहीं बचाया जा सकता है। ये करना जरूरी है। किसान को बचाइए, खेती बचाइए, देश बचाइए, नहीं तो आपका खाद्य सुरक्षा और उसके बाद आपकी सार्वभौमिकता है वो खतरे में पड़ जाएगी।
Fair enough. I think that's a good note to end this debate on. Take adequate steps and immediate steps so as to ensure that the farmers doesn't even need a waiver in the near future. Loan waivers are not the way to go forward, but at the moment it is required because the farmer has no other go. That's all the time we have on this edition of The Big Picture. A.K. Bhattacharya, Praveen Jha, Sanjeev Gupta, N.K.shukla. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have. See you again next time.